Greed Island, the rarest video game in the world, was released in 1987. Meanwhile, Gone Freaks was a sperm released in 1986, released from his father and into his mother, that is. Unless it isn't. Today I'm going to take you through one of the wildest secrets in Hunter x Hunter, because Gon's mother doesn't exist, and Jing made Gon using Nen. Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for highly improbable births. My name is Liam, and to the best of my knowledge, I was created without Nen. My birth was more the, how shall we say, traditional mix of bodily functions. But for as long as Jing has been gone and Gon has been after Jing, one paramount question has reigned supreme. Who exactly is Mama Freaks? The theories about this are absolutely endless. Some people say that Gon's mother came from the Dark Continent, whilst others say that she was a completely random everyday woman with no importance whatsoever. And there's even a particularly disturbing, albeit kind of hilarious theory, that Pariston is Gon's mother, and his current duel with Jing is more of a parental spat. We're going to ignore that. In fact, we're going to ignore all of those, because the answer is perfectly spelled out in the series itself, and it has been for about a decade. Unlike Jing, Mama Gon didn't even have the chance to become Gon, because she never existed to begin with. And the answer to this riddle is revealed via Greed Island. Greed Island was introduced as a digital game whereby super special Nen users could travel inside and play. However, it was later revealed to be a real-life Nen game taking place on a real-life island, functioning on what has to be the most complex series of Nen vows and restrictions that this series has ever seen. But Greed Island is like a Nen playground where anyone can make anything happen. So long as they have the cards to do so, that is, cards. They're very important. And Greed Island features three main card types: restricted cards, unrestricted cards, and spell cards. The arc itself mostly focuses on the latter. You'll be familiar with cards like a company, for example, which were used into Oblivion, so it was more or less hunters using these spells in conjunction with their own abilities. The next type of card are the unrestricted ones, and they are optional, and generally quite common things or creatures that players can pick up, such as the illustrious Rock and its evolved form, Large Rock. These didn't get used a lot because, well, quite frankly, they're more or less useless. However, the third type of card, the restricted cards, grant supreme abilities. These cards provide powers that rival, and in some cases, completely outclass actual Nen abilities held by Hunter x Hunter characters. However, the problem is that to complete the Greed Island game, players need all 99 of these cards in their binder, which naturally means that the players of the game don't actually use these cards, because they need them. And I know I'm talking a lot about fictional game mechanics, but this is important because it holds a very profound answer. But first, this video is sponsored by Monster Legends, a free-to-play mobile game available on all of the devices. Here you can collect over 900 monsters with varying elements and rarities to build your own monsterific empire. And of course, you'll need stuff to do the building, like say food and gold. In order to grow, you can breed your monsters, mixing different elements into a new species that hatch as babby monsters, which go on to evolve and level up with the help of runes, relics, and talents, which you can use to create the best team and challenge your friends to a round of battle combat. And one of the super unique features of this game is the YouTuber Island. Here you can find various monsters created in collaboration with the biggest of YouTubers, who is not me, definitely not me, but more along the lines of the legends of, say, Mr. Beast and Dream. You can download the game using my link in the description or QR code, and when you do, there will be a special free starter pack containing the ever so exclusive fire habitat with 3 epic monsters, being the Volcano Keepers, Hellberus, Firesk, and Salamander. Make sure you download the game now and claim your free starter pack, which will help you get a head start and speed your leveling process. So do that thing, but for now it's back to you. Me? Greed Island has a series of what I would label strange restricted cards, such as Mad Scientist Pheromones, the effect of which is spray on your body to attract the opposite sex. However, you cannot adjust the strength, so be careful, as it may cause a proliferation of stalkers. Or Liquor Spring, which says, draw some of this spring's water. 1 hour later, it will become a random alcoholic drink of exquisite taste and extraordinary quality. And I just get the feeling that that was 100% a Jing choice. He strikes me as the kind of guy who might get a little bit too friendly with alcohol, but also these restricted cards can encroach into more creepy territory. For example, Connection Severing Scissors, which says, cut a picture of someone you don't want to see with these scissors and you will never see them again. Caution, it will affect everyone in the picture except yourself. Which sounds like the entire premise of a horror film. But I guess the idea is that Jing created these restricted 99 superpowers as a prize for the winner. You know, you beat the game, select 3 superpowers, and they can do just about anything, including create life. The first tier of our GON Insight Cake is a card called Pregnancy Stone, the effect of which is, carry a stone weighing 3 kilos each for 1 month and you will get pregnant, even if you're male. You may choose the sex of the baby by the female or male stone. And that is a pretty big thing. I mean, Nen can do all kinds of wonderful, wacky, and kind of scary things, but to actually create life that is a whole new level of power. And I think you know where we're going with this. Jing used this card to make himself pregante. This resulted in a baby GON being born on May 5th, 1987, the very same year that this baby-making game would be released. I know, it sounds like a joke, and I thought this was ridiculous at first as well, I really did, but I am telling you, there is so much more to this. Firstly, when it comes to creating life, we are no stranger to Nen abilities playing GON. I mean, in this series, Nen users can create objects, enhance or manipulate people, emit life force, and even transmute any element imaginable, even those that don't exist, like a certain bungee gun. And children's chewables aside, these are the very building blocks of life. And where we do see very blatant examples of Nen creating life is with the Nen beasts. Some of them are hollow shell puppets controlled by their users. Others are beasts programmed to act or respond to certain conditions. But some go a step further, having their own individual personalities, and in later stages of Hunter x Hunter, Nen beasts exist who operate completely independently of their users. In fact, in the case of the Guardian Spirit Beasts, their users don't even know that they exist. So we're practically already there when it comes to creating life, we just haven't done so perfectly mimicking a human. Unless it's Without You, which does perfectly mimic a human, that's the whole thing it does, but you get what I mean. Because Nen isn't magic, in fact, Nen isn't anything. Nen is just the name of the art form. What we're actually doing here is wielding aura, and aura is life force. So if there is anything capable of creating life, then surely life energy seems like a pretty legit candidate. So how does Jing make Babby? Because sure, pregnancy stone can make someone pegnate, even if they are biologically male, but then there's still the problem of evicting the baby. Because if biologically male bodies were commercial buildings, then let's just say we would be severely fined for not having the appropriate fire exits. But don't worry, because Jing thought of this as well, and created another of the 99 restricted cards called Hormone Cookies, which says, after eating this candy, your sex will temporarily change for 24 hours. A set of 10 boxes, 20 cookies per box. Now for those of you who are interested in maths, that is 200 cookies as a whole, so you have quite a bit of room to maneuver. I mean, a standard pregnancy is 280 days, which yes, is more than the cookies we have to cover, but I'm going to assume that in this magical fictional world, we could just carry the baby and pop a cookie right before giving birth. That or just redo whatever the quest is to get another cookie card. The point is that Jing giving birth, as weird as it sounds, is shockingly possible. One thing we should point out is that Jing is not a game master. He's a player like everyone else, and it's entirely possible that if GON were born on Greed Island, that the game may not allow him to travel outside of its boundaries. But I mean, then again, it also might. Due to GON being a living, breathing human, it might just register him as a player, and that's why GON has his own save file. But assuming that this endeavor had to be completed in reality to allow GON the freedom of a real boy, then it's pretty easily done through the concept of the prize binder, which allows players to take 3 cards outside of the Greed Island borders to use however they'd like. So Jing playtests his game, because what dev doesn't? He manages to beat it, attain the prize binder, and select 3 cards. Pregnancy Stone, Hormone Cookie, and the 3rd card, which is probably the most mind-blowing of all. Have you ever wondered why Jing has such a bit of a weird thing going on with pandas? During the chairman election arc after losing, Jing was scheduled for an interview. However, he of course did not show up, and a seemingly stuffed panda was popped up there in his place. Funny joke, he wasn't there, so we improvised with what we had, and what we had is a panda. So the panda is now Jing. Except that this happens again. During a Zodiac meeting where Jing is absent, his chair is taken up by this very same panda, at which point it becomes pretty clear that this is not a choice made by the Zodiacs. This panda, stuffed or not, is Jing's representative. Because why would the Zodiacs choose a panda? Jing's assigned animal is a boar, so surely they'd use a boar instead. But everything becomes much clearer when we posit that the 3rd and final card Jing took from Greed Island was Panda Maid, a creature described as very neat and loves to cook. Each has a hobby such as sewing or gardening. They are excellent at taking care of human children. Very convenient because Jing is completely unexcellent at taking care of human children. And right now we're just assuming that this is some sort of cute stuffed panda, but it could very easily be a living, breathing Nen beast. I mean, for crap's sake, this is a series where we have a living, breathing bean man, so anything is possible. But if the panda is stuffed, then weirdly enough, that would only make this idea more solid, because the timeline of events would go like this. Jing starts developing Greed Island, and either before or along the way, he decides to procreate on a whim. He specifically caters the Greed Island mechanics to allow for this, playtests the game, and takes these 3 cards with him back to reality. Pregnancy Stone and Hormone Cookies allow him to carry a child and give birth, and Panda Maid was intended to raise GON in lieu of actual parenting. However, Panda Maid fails due to some sort of bad Nen coding or perhaps a time limit, and instead becomes a stuffed toy. So Jing, now thoroughly screwed, Instead of taking his child around the world with a panda bear taking care of him, has no choice but to dump Gon on Whale Island, inevitably to be raised by Mito. And from there we know the story. Jing gave some BS about separating with Gon's mother, then Mito did a lot of yelling and took full custody of Gon. And in doing so, Mito became Gon's true mother. She stepped into a role that did not exist, and that's why Gon has no interest at all in listening to Jing reveal the truth, because on a primal level, he knows that there is really nothing to find out, and that Mito was his mother all along. Even then, it might still sound a bit weird. I mean, why would Togashi do something so left field like have his protagonist be born from a game? Well, this is actually one of Togashi's more consistent features. This man has always been a fiend for games, specifically anything RPG related. In fact, in 1987, he wrote a short story called Tonda Birthday Present, which is about a middle school student bringing his favorite RPG to life with his mad scientist father. And then there's that year again, 1987. Again, Gon's birth year and the year that Greed Island was released. Also, in Level E, Togashi constructs an entire arc where grade schoolers are transported to an alien planet that lives exactly like a Final Fantasy style RPG. Oh, and he's also notorious for playing like insane amounts of Dragon Quest instead of actually drawing manga. But games are closer to Togashi's heart than probably any other theme explored in his works. So to have his main protagonist quite literally be born from a game may be very out of character with your standard shonen author. However, when it comes to Togashi, it's one of those things that just makes sense. Especially since, as Hunter x Hunter went on, it very deliberately proceeded counter to typical shonen trends. And the reason why this isn't spelled out as blatantly to us, like having Killua say something like, "Gon, I, Killua, have put the pieces together, and I know the true truth of your mother." That doesn't happen because Togashi doesn't care. He doesn't want to play that standard boring game. However, the clues he did leave behind paint a very compelling Nen portrait. A portrait of a man with unparalleled power and fickle interests like creating a child on a whim, then leaving his whole game as a playground for that child to grow, learn, and, well, play in. At least by the Freaks' definition of the word play, which is probably the same as the Zoldyck and Netero definition as well, to be honest. And I will say that yes, this is an outrageously crazy theory thing, and I myself do find it hard to believe, simply because I don't know if Togashi would care enough to purposely plant all of those seeds. However, I do find it much more plausible than its sister theory, which states that Jing used hormone cookies to change his sex, and then invoked mad scientist pheromones to attract a partner, like say Razor or the ever popular Pariston. So yeah, the Hunter x Hunter fandom gets a bit weird. And thanks again to Monster Legends for sponsoring this video.